Welcome back to Michael Jackson's Human Nature. As we've learned thus far, Michael Jackson wasn't always the soft-spoken, introverted man that many of us perceived him to be. In fact, he was often quite the opposite. According to legendary producer Teddy Riley, who worked on the Dangerous, History and Invincible albums, Michael was a lot like us. He loved to bowl, play practical jokes on people, and beatbox the songs he had stuck in his head. But it got truly real when it came to Michael's kids. According to his friend, they were undoubtedly the love of his life.
On the Invincible album, we worked in New York, and he had his children in New York, and I felt so nervous meeting his children, but he brought them in and he said, I want you to meet Paris and I want you to meet Prince. And I said, wow, cool. He's like, okay, they're coming in now. Just have a seat, sit down, sit down. I was like, okay, it's like, almost like you're meeting a brother's children, you know, for the first time. It's like my big brother, and I'm about to meet my niece and nephew. And they walked in playful, and were like, so this is Theodore. He didn't say Teddy, he was like, this is Theodore. And they were like, hi, Theodore. And it was just the greatest feeling. I felt like I was part of the family. With his children, it just gave him even more of a realness. He reads them a book every day. When we were in Virginia doing the Invincible album, it was not one day miss reading the children something. So that showed me right there, he's an incredible father. We talked about his moments when he was young and how, you know, he would never have his children go through any of that. He would never scold them. You know, it was just not the answer. And he knew, you know, he just like, I would never have them go through the same thing ever in their lives. He's like, I think the best scolding for children is time out. The best scolding for children is let's read a book. I have to say this, his timeouts are not as bad as, you know, our timeouts and, you know, family timeouts. His timeout is the kids got to go lay in the bed and stay in the bed. They don't go up against the wall and look at the wall for, you know, an hour, you know, or 10 minutes. He sent them to the bunks with no TV. So, for me, that's a good timeout. But the kids, you know, they knew what it was. They realized what it was. So, that's what I witnessed when I met the children. They love their dad. They love their dad so much. They love him. They love him so much, and I know that they're gonna really miss him. Really, really, really miss him.
All of us know Michael Jackson as the king of pop, but he's also the undisputed king of charity. What kind of humanitarian was he? Well, he's listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most charitable pop star ever. One man who witnessed his generosity firsthand was Kenny Ortega. Ortega co-created and designed the Dangerous and History tours and was preparing the This Is It concert series when Jackson died. He'll admit that working with Michael was one of the highlights of his life, but it was what MJ did off the stage that had the most profound effect on him.
Working with Michael was not like, you know, it was like a completely unique experience to anything else that you could possibly have in your life as a creative person. The first time Michael called me to work with him was before Dangerous, 2 decades ago. And it was the most unbelievable day in my life. And this guy was just, you know, the hero in every aspect of what I loved and why I was doing what I did. One thing that really will live long and be everlasting with me, just in terms of my, you know, what I learned from Michael was his reasons for doing things. And they were pure. You know, we were going out to do This Is It. And he never once, ever, in the months that we worked together, talked about selling records. He talked about wanting to do This Is It because he felt that he was still young enough to be able to do it, and he wanted to share it with his children that were old enough to be able to appreciate what it was that he's loved all of his life. He wanted to do it for the fans. He wanted to give them back for staying there with him, for supporting him, for not quitting him. And most importantly, he said, you know, Kenny, I wrote these songs, you know, over a decade ago. Earth Song, We Are the World, Heal the World. And look at the planet. Look at the peril that we're in. Look at the human condition. You know, if we don't do something to help this planet in the next 4 to 6 years, we'll have done irreversible damage. And there will be no saving this place for future generations. And that's how he talked. Now let's go to work. Let's dream up a show. Let's entertain people, but let's leave them with something important at the end of the day. I was doing the Olympics the second time Michael called me. I was like actually doing the Atlanta Olympics opening and closing ceremonies when Michael called and said, I need you now. And I was like, okay. You know, I was doing the biggest show on the planet, but I was still going to figure out a darn way to work with Michael, you know, because, you know, when he called, you said yes. You know, I dealt with the consequences of having said yes after, but never wanted to pass up an opportunity because I knew it would be life-changing. I was with Michael in Eastern Europe, and we got off of a plane, and he said, you want to go to the hotel? You want to come to the orphanage with me? And it was like, rather than going to the hotel, he went to the orphanage. And he walked into this orphanage, and I remembered him looking, and he was walking through it, and he was very calm. The promoters were there, and he was looking around, and the conditions were pretty grim. And I saw him whisper to someone, and then whisper to someone else, and he was, you know, moving through and interacting with the children. And then later I found out what he had whispered, and it was, you know, this orphanage will be turned around. There will be new beds in here. There will be clean sheets in here. There will be more people in here taking care of these children by tomorrow, or I'm not going to go on stage. I saw this guy go into an orphanage in Romania and turn the conditions around within 24 hours. Another thing that I'll always remember about him. You know, this guy had the biggest heart of anybody and really, really did care about improving, you know, the human condition, especially for children. That was part of his mission. While he was on tour, you know, he always wanted to know what he could do in each place so that when he left the place better, having been there. You know, and how many people can you say that about?
Amazing story. And like the other stories told here, it provides a little more insight about Michael as the real person behind the influential icon. Michael Jackson, the man, will definitely be missed, but there's no doubt that his music and memory will live on forever.